Hi, I'm Dean, 36, and 5 months ago my wife told me, "Don't touch me. I have self-respect," because I leaned in for a goodnight kiss. The next morning, I gave her that same energy back. "Don't ask me. I have self-respect." And apparently that was the equivalent of hitting the nuclear button on her entire personality. So buckle up, because this marriage went off a cliff like it was trying to win a demolition derby. Let me rewind just a bit. For 6.5 years, Grace and I had what I'd call a solid, middle-of-the-road, normal marriage. Nothing dramatic. Nothing soul-scarring. We met at a supply chain conference in Dallas. Yes, the kind of event where the keynote speaker is a 57-year-old man explaining palette optimization with the enthusiasm of a DMV printer. Grace was working in event planning then. Pretty, organized, sharp dresser, could talk a charging bull into signing up for a wedding expo. We bonded over that terrible hotel coffee everyone drinks out of politeness, and the shared trauma of listening to a grown man say, "Logistics synergy," unironically. We dated 18 months, got married, bought a 4-bedroom house in a suburb where the HOA has a vendetta against mailboxes larger than a shoebox. Life was fine. Not perfect, but fine. We took weekend trips. Ate at restaurants where the bill made me question my salary. Did movie nights. Hosted Friendsgivings. Grace had her girl group. I had my poker buddies. We were functional enough to fool even ourselves. Then 5 months ago, a tiny shift happened. A comment here. A sigh there. "You never plan anything romantic anymore," sprinkled on top. At first, I thought she was just stressed. Maybe turning 31 hit her weird. Maybe her friend Monica, the real estate agent with a white Audi, 2 divorces, and the spiritual energy of someone who eats men for brunch, was whispering garbage in her ear. I brushed it off. Then she quit her job. No notice. No plan. Just walked out because her boss micromanaged her. This was job number 4 she'd abandoned since we got married. A nonprofit was too demanding. A hotel event coordinator role was too toxic. Now her event firm job was apparently beneath her. So now, while I spent 60 hours a week orchestrating freight shipments across 3 states, fending off delayed trucks, angry clients, and a manager who thinks slack is a personality trait, Grace spent her days at yoga, brunch, and pretending to look for work. When the market improves. And I didn't complain. Not once. Mortgage? Covered. Utilities? Covered. Car payments? Covered. Hers is in my name because her credit is more unstable than a Jenga tower. Groceries, insurance, vacations? Covered. I wasn't resentful. Yet. But the math was starting to add up. Then came the bedroom freeze-out. First it was a headache. Then stress. Then, just tired. Then flinching when I touched her shoulder. Then, without exaggeration, sleeping on the far edge of the bed like I was radioactive. Then last night happened. She climbed into bed, back to me, silent. I leaned in to kiss her goodnight. Just a simple kiss. Her shoulder jerked away like I'd slapped her. "Don't touch me," she snapped. "I have self-respect." Self-respect? For a kiss? I was so stunned I didn't even breathe. "What are you talking about?" I asked. She finally turned around and I swear she had this expression like she was delivering an Oscar monologue. "I'm not just available whenever you want," she said. "My body, my choice. And I choose not to be touched by someone who doesn't appreciate me." I laughed. I shouldn't have. But it came out involuntarily. Because somehow, in her mind, I'd gone from husband to ungrateful peasant in one sleep cycle. She doubled down. Got angrier. Told me to get out of the bed I pay for. I grabbed my pillow, went to the guest room, and lay there staring at the ceiling. And for the first time, instead of feeling hurt or confused or guilty, I felt clarity. This wasn't a phase. This wasn't stress. This wasn't a fight. This was her rewriting the rules of the marriage in real time and expecting me to sign the new contract. No. Not anymore. This morning, I woke up in the guest room at 6. Showered. Made coffee. And when she came downstairs giving me her silent performance, I told her, calmly, cheerfully. By the way, I've got plans tonight. Don't wait up. Her head snapped up so fast she almost sprained something. What plans? She demanded. I smiled. Self-respect ones. She lost her mind on the spot. And that's where this story really begins. Grace spent the entire morning pacing around the kitchen like she was auditioning for the role of Angry Wife Number 1 in a low-budget Lifetime movie. Meanwhile, I ate my breakfast in absolute peace, scrolling through emails like I hadn't just launched a one-man emotional rebellion. She finally cracked. What plans do you have tonight, Dean? She asked, arms crossed, hip popped. To her, the holy trinity of righteous indignation. Poker night, I said, casual as a cloud. It's Thursday, she snapped. Carter moved it. I shrugged. Owen's got a conference this weekend. The look she gave me? Pure shock mixed with outrage? Like I'd just committed emotional tax fraud by having a life outside her. You can't just make plans without telling me. Oh, but I just did, I said, rinsing my mug. And technically I did tell you. Just now. Her mouth opened and closed like a buffering video. That's not how marriage works. I turned, leaned on the counter, looked her dead in the eye. Last night you told me to get out of the bed because I tried to kiss you. You said I don't appreciate you, and you don't want to be touched by me. I'm giving you space. Be grateful. She froze. Blinking. Processing. Her brain looked like it was trying to load a corrupted file. But she didn't follow me when I left for work, which honestly shocked me. Not because she's clingy, she's not. She's just used to living in the Dean comfort economy where emotional outbursts come with no consequences. Work that day was rough. 3 delayed shipments, 1 screaming client, and an assistant manager who called out sick for the 3rd time in 2 weeks. But there's one powerful motivator in the world. Spite. Spite will push you through anything. Carter texted at noon. Carter. Poker tonight still on? Or was that an SOS? Me. Both. Carter. Bring cash. I'm taking it all tonight. At 6 p.m., I walked into Carter's condo. The man lives like his life is sponsored by leather furniture. Owen is already shuffling cards with the grim seriousness of a Vegas pit boss. Brendan's on his 2nd beer, boasting about a client who bought 30 hospital beds for cash, God knows for what. Dean, Carter said, giving me a once-over. You look like someone microwaved you on low. Grace, I said simply. That was enough. The room nodded in understanding. We just started the first hand when the knock came. Carter answered, and I immediately heard the voice that haunts parking lots, brunch tables, and overpriced wine bars. Grace. Followed by Monica, real estate goblin queen of the Midwest. Grace walked in with a smile so fake it should have come with a factory sticker. Hope you guys don't mind, she said, sugary sweet. We were in the neighborhood. Sure. Because people who live 35 minutes away in the opposite direction are always in the neighborhood of downtown Chicago on a Thursday night. Carter, per man, didn't have the backbone to say no. The women settled onto the couch behind the poker table, and Monica immediately started interrogating Carter about his mortgage like she was inspecting a crime scene. Then Grace struck. Dean, she said loudly, you're probably going to lose all your money tonight. Again. Owen looked up. Brendan stopped mid-shuffle. Carter froze like he was trying not to witness a murder. I stayed calm. If I lose, I said, tossing a chip into the pot, it's my money. Since you know, I'm the only one bringing any in right now. Her jaw twitched. Monica sucked air through her teeth. It was beautiful. She tried again 20 minutes later. Dean, maybe you should fold. Strategy isn't exactly your strong suit. Owen, sweet, quiet, socially unpredictable Owen, looked up with the timing of a sitcom sniper. Actually, he said, Dean has the second highest win rate at this table. Grace blinked. W what? We keep stats. Owen replied. Dean's up about $4,000 over 2 years. Brendan pointed at him. Dude. Unnecessary. Owen shrugged. Facts are facts. Grace shut up. For exactly 5 minutes. Then she leaned in again. Maybe you should focus less on poker and more on your marriage, she said. That was it. I stood up. Calm. Quiet. Done. I'm out, I said, grabbing my jacket. What? Why? Grace demanded, panic creeping into her voice. I looked at her. Because I don't play where I'm not respected. And I walked out. Grace called me 4 times before I reached the elevator. Monica texted paragraphs shaped like a tantrum. I ignored it all. When I got home, Grace was waiting in the living room with her arms crossed like she was executing a hostage negotiation. Really, Dean? You embarrass me. I stared at her. You showed up to mock me in front of my friends like it was open mic night. That's on you. I was trying to be involved. No, I said, heading upstairs. You were trying to control the narrative. I'm not playing that game. She yelled something behind me. I shut the guest room door. Slept like a baby. Because sometime during that night, something fundamental broke inside me. Not the marriage. Not the trust. Not the respect. The willingness to keep playing her game. Tomorrow, I'd call a lawyer. And that call would be the beginning of the end. The next morning, Grace was gone. Not kidnapped gone. Not mysteriously gone. Just retreated to Mommy's house in Milwaukee to weaponize tears and rewrite history. Gone. I made breakfast. Eggs, toast, peace. The kind of peace you only get when the emotional tornado of your household has temporarily relocated across state lines. Then I went to work and actually focused for the first time in weeks. At lunch, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Milwaukee. Fantastic. Boss raid, mother-in-law edition. I picked up anyway because chaos loves witnesses. Dean, a woman's voice snapped. It's Caroline. Ah, yes. Grace's mother. A woman who treats passive aggression like a hobby and criticism like cardio. Hi, Caroline, I said, neutral as Switzerland. Grace called me this morning, she said. She is very upset. You've been emotionally distant. Sleeping in another room. She says you humiliated her at poker night. I was at my poker night, I said. Grace showed up uninvited. She says you're hostile. She says you. Caroline, I interrupted. If Grace deserves better, tell her to go find it. I'm done being lectured. How dare you? I hung up. I don't hang up on many people. But Caroline earned it 7 years ago. When I got home that evening, Barb, the 60-something CIA-level neighborhood gossip machine, was standing in her yard like she'd been waiting for me. She didn't bother with hello. Grace left with suitcases this morning, she said. Everything okay? She went to her mom's, I said. We're taking space. Barb nodded, hands on hips like a small-town sheriff. Well, she said, if you want my advice. I don't, I said. She ignored me completely. It's about who's more stubborn. If you want to save your marriage, outlast her. I'm not trying to outlast anyone. She snorted. Then you're not going to save anything. She walked away like she just delivered prophecy. I stood there thinking about her words, until I realized something. I don't want to save this marriage. I want out. Grace returned 2 days later, with Caroline in tow. Because of course she did. They entered my house like they were staging a home invasion with throw pillows. We need to talk, Caroline declared before even putting her purse down. No, I said. This is between me and Grace. You're a guest. I'm her mother, she snapped. I have a right. Not in my house, I said. Act like a guest or leave. The purple shade her face turned deserves its own Pantone listing. See? Grace shouted. This is what I'm talking about. He's hostile to everyone. Your mother walked in and criticized me within 30 seconds. I said. Someone needs to teach her boundaries. Caroline gasped like I'd confessed to federal crimes. I grabbed my keys. I'm going to Wisconsin for the weekend. I said. You two can have the house. You can't just leave. Grace snapped. Watch me. And I did. My cabin in Wisconsin is my sanctuary. Quiet, private, mosquito-infested in a charming way. I spent the weekend fishing, reading, and living like someone whose wife wasn't actively performing for an imaginary court audience. When I returned Sunday, Grace was calmer. Not apologetic, just recalibrated. Like a thermostat after a reboot. Then Wednesday morning, she cornered me in the kitchen holding a sheet of paper. Marriage counseling, she said. I booked us an appointment Friday. No, I said. Her jaw clenched. Dean, we need help. We do, I agreed. You need to figure out what you want. I need peace. Counseling doesn't give either. I'm trying, she snapped. No, I said. You're performing. My phone buzzed. Carter. Monica's throwing a barbecue Saturday. You two are invited. Should I make an excuse for you? Me. I'll be there. He sent back a thumbs up and, this will be fun. He was right. Just not in the way he expected. Saturday rolled around, and we arrived at Monica's backyard separately. Monica's place looks like she seduced a landscaping crew and then billed her ex-husbands for it. Pool with a waterfall. Gourmet outdoor kitchen. String lights. Stone pizza oven. The whole place screams, someone else paid for this. I joined Carter and Owen near the grill. We were basking in the smell of overpriced steak when Grace walked in, with Caroline behind her like an emotional support devil. The moment they arrived, the atmosphere dropped 20 degrees. Brendan wandered over with a beer. Grace looks like she's about to file a noise complaint against the sun. About an hour into the party, Monica shouted across the yard. Dean! Can you help Grace bring out the dishes? It wasn't a question. It was a command. The kind you give a toddler or an intern. Half the yard turned. I looked at Monica. Then at Grace. Then back at my conversation. No thanks, I said. I'm good. Silence. Dead. Complete. You could hear the carbonation in the soda cans. Excuse me? Monica said. You've got 2 legs and 2 hands, I said, taking a sip. Pretty sure you can handle dishes without me. Grace's face twisted. Grace loves performing for crowds. But this time, the audience wasn't buying tickets. You're being rude, she hissed. No, I said. I'm just not your employee. Caroline stormed forward. You will not speak to these women that way. I stood, handed my drink to Carter. Caroline, I said calmly. You are not my mother. And this isn't your house. I'm done pretending either is true. I walked to my car. Grace shouted something behind me. I didn't hear it. I was already gone. My signature move now? Leaving toxic situations. And every time I left, I felt lighter. That night, Grace left a note. Staying at Monica's. We need space. Cool. Because I had all the space I needed to make my next call. A divorce attorney. Wednesday at 2 p.m. I walked into the office of a divorce attorney named Janet, recommended by Carter months ago. Just in case. Which at the time I thought was him being dramatic. Turns out Carter is basically a prophet with a gym membership. Janet's office sat on the 17th floor overlooking Lake Michigan. Floor-to-ceiling windows, walls lined with law books, and an energy like she'd cross-examine her own reflection if it looked suspicious. She shook my hand, sat down, opened a leather folder, and said, Tell me everything. So I did. The rejection in bed. The poker night ambush. The barbecue humiliation. The mother-in-law invasion. The mysterious, chronic unemployment. The 5-month attitude marathon. Janet took notes, with surgical precision. Does she work? She asked. No. Who pays the bills? I do. Whose name is on the house? Both. But I paid the down payment and every mortgage payment. She nodded. The cars? My car's mine. Her car is also mine because her credit is worse than her personality. Janet didn't smile, but her eyes said she appreciated the data. Kids? No. Good, she said. That makes this infinitely easier. She laid out the situation. Illinois is an equitable distribution state. Grace gets half the marital assets, house equity plus retirement contributions during marriage. She gets no spousal support unless she proves she's incapable of working. She's clearly capable of working. If lunch with Monica counted, she'd be CEO of brunch. Then Janet leaned back and said something that lodged itself in my brain like a thumbtack. She may try to fight you, but don't worry. They always start loud. Then they see the legal bills. I left her office with the confidence of a man who finally sees the exit ramp of a 7-year emotional traffic jam. That night, I toured an apartment in the city. 1 bedroom, 12th floor, floor-to-ceiling windows, underground parking, quiet building. Signed the lease immediately. Move-in date 2 weeks. I didn't tell Grace. She'd find out soon enough. Over the next days, I began Operation Exit. Moved non-essential stuff to a storage unit. Shifted money to accounts in only my name. Packed clothes into boxes. Took my tools. Took my books. Left her the house plant she always kills and replaces. Slept in the guest room every night. Spoke to her only in necessary syllables. Grace barely noticed. She was too busy attending emergency girl meetings at Monica's, which I imagine looked like a boardroom where the only agenda item is, how do we blame Dean for everything? Friday afternoon, Janet filed the divorce petition. Monday morning at 9 a.m., the process server knocked on our front door. 30 seconds later, my phone rang. Grace. Pissed. What is this? She demanded, her voice sharp enough to peel paint. Divorce papers, I said. Calm. Even cheerful. You can't be serious. I am. I'm done. A pause. I could practically hear the gears grinding in her head. We can fix this, she said. We just need counseling. No. We don't. You can't throw away 7 years. Grace. I said. You did that the moment you started treating me like a nuisance instead of a husband. She hung up. I expected a scream fest. A tirade. A meltdown. Instead, silence. For 2 hours. Then came the text. Grace. Can we at least talk in person? Nope. Grace. Dean, please. We can fix this. Still nope. Grace. You're really doing this. Then radio silence until next morning, when she finally hit the next stage of grief. Weaponized tears. She called me at 7 a.m., voice trembling. Dean, please. I know I made mistakes. I was stressed. I didn't mean any of it. We can rebuild. You had 5 months to rebuild, I said. You chose not to. Instant emotional whiplash. The tears shut off like she flipped a switch. You'll regret this, she snapped. I'll fight. I'll take everything. The house. The money. Your retirement. Feel free, I said. My lawyer's ready. She screamed something muffled and hung up. That evening, while I was unboxing in my new apartment, someone began pounding on my door like the building was on fire. I looked through the peephole. Grace. Mascara streaked. Hair wild. Face blotchy. Tears pouring. Emotional chaos incarnate. Dean, she yelled. Open up. No, I said through the door. Please, she sobbed. I was confused. Monica got in my head. I'll cut her off. I'll do anything. Translation. My leverage failed. I'm panicking. Then, suddenly, "This is your fault," she screamed. "You quit. You're weak." And there it was, the real voice. The voice she'd been hiding under the tears. "I'm done," I said. "Talk to my lawyer. I'll ruin you. Get in line." Security showed up 5 minutes later. Escorted her out. Gave me a little pamphlet on domestic incident protocols. Grace spiraled fully after that. Day 1, apologies. Day 2, begging. Day 3, showing up at my work. Day 4, Monica ambush at a coffee shop. Day 5, angry essays via text. Day 6, mutual friends guilt-tripping me. Day 7, social media. Men are trash. Posts. 3 weeks in, she was exhausted, scattered, slipping. But the real meltdown? The moment her entire denial state cracked. That didn't happen in my house. Or at work. Or in court. It happened at my cabin. 40 minutes from civilization. In a cocktail dress. In stilettos. Screaming my name across the lake like a horror movie ghost. And that's where everything turned. The plan for that weekend was simple. Fishing with Carter and Owen. Beer. Silence. Zero marital chaos. You know, therapy for men who refuse to go to therapy. We got to the cabin Friday night, cracked open some cold ones, and slept like lumber. Saturday afternoon, we were out on the dock. The sun was perfect. The lake was calm. Owen was catching fish like he had a personal contract with Poseidon. Carter was catching nothing and blaming, line tension, every 5 minutes. It was bliss. Then we heard a car. Not just any car, you could hear the anger in the engine rev. Owen looked over his shoulder, eyebrows raised. Expecting anyone? Nope. A car door slammed. We heard heels on gravel. Stilettos. On a dirt road. That alone was enough to tell us it wasn't the UPS guy. Then a voice cut through the trees. "Dean!" Carter actually whispered. "Oh no." Owen muttered. "Here we go." Grace came around the corner like a tornado wearing Sephora. And she was dressed like she was meeting someone at a rooftop cocktail bar, not hiking into the woods like a drunk woodland fairy. Tight dress, sky-high heels, makeup smudged like she cried in the car or fought a raccoon. Hard to tell. "Dean," she repeated, staggering toward us. "We need to talk right now." I didn't move. Didn't blink. Didn't even sigh. Owen whispered, "Do you want us to leave?" "No," I said. "Stay. This is entertainment." Grace teetered onto the dock, wobbling like a toddler on stilts. "You can't just ignore me," she said, pointing a shaking finger at me. "I'm your wife. You're my soon-to-be ex-wife." I corrected. "And this is private property." She blinked, swayed, blinked again. "I came all the way here to talk. I told you to go home. You ruined my life," she yelled. "No," I said calmly. "You humiliated me for months. I stopped allowing it." Carter let out a small amused snort. Grace whipped toward him. "Who even are you?" she spat. "Why are you here?" "This is my cabin," I said. "And who are they?" she demanded. Carter raised his beer. "Hi." Owen waved. "Howdy." Grace squinted like she was trying to recognize faces in a dream. "Did you replace me with them?" "We've been friends for 6 years," I said. "You just never noticed." Owen added, "We once had dinner at your house. You told me software engineers don't look like me." "I still don't know what you meant." Grace whipped back to me. Her hair stuck to her lip gloss. Her heels wobbled. "I loved you," she said dramatically, voice cracking. "You loved the lifestyle," I corrected. "Not me." "That's not true. Grace, you kicked me out of our bed for trying to kiss you. You embarrassed me at poker night. You brought your mother to the house to attack me. You showed up at parties to insult me in front of friends. You demanded I treat the marriage like a job while you treated it like a hobby." Her face crumpled. "I regret it," she whispered. You regret losing control, I said. That broke whatever thin emotional dam she had left. You're horrible, she screamed. I hate you. I shrugged. Join the club. Caroline's president. Carter choked on his beer. Owen stared at his fishing pole like it was suddenly the most interesting object on earth. And that's when Grace tried to storm off dramatically. But she made one fatal error. She forgot she was wearing stilettos. On a narrow wooden dock that had gaps between the boards. Her heel caught. There was a full half-second where she windmilled her arms like a malfunctioning inflatable tube man. Then she fell. Face first. With a very undignified thunk. One heel flew into the lake with a plop. Her dress rode up like it was trying to escape the scene. She lay there making muffled noises into the wood. Owen's phone was out instantly. Not a pause. Not a thought. Just pure documentary instinct. Carter was physically shaking with suppressed laughter. Grace slowly pushed herself up. Her face had a red dock pattern imprint. Her hair was chaos. Her makeup looked like a villain origin story. Delete that! She shrieked at Owen. No, he said, scrolling. This is excellent content. Carter lost it. Full wheezing laugh. Face turning red. You're all terrible, Grace screamed, wobbling as she stood barefoot now that both shoes were gone, one in the lake, one somewhere behind her pride. Grace, I said, go home. I hate you, she screamed again. You've mentioned. She ripped off her remaining shoe and threw it at me. Missed by 3 feet. Now you're littering, Owen said. Should I call the DNR? She storm-limped barefoot up the path. Carter ordered her an Uber because she was definitely too drunk to drive. The driver arrived, took one look at her dock-imprint face and torn dress, and visibly reconsidered every choice that led him to that moment. 10 minutes later, she was gone. We sat on the dock for another hour. Owen kept rewatching the video. Carter kept laughing every time. The lake was peaceful again. And I knew something deep and final in that moment. This marriage wasn't dying. It was already dead. Grace just didn't realize the funeral had happened months ago. By Monday morning, the internet and my social circle already knew more about my divorce than I had personally said out loud. Thanks to Barb, the neighborhood's unofficial CIA, the story had traveled from our driveway to the HOA Facebook group to the local pickleball courts in under 48 hours. The version circulating was apparently: Grace had a mental breakdown at the cabin and tried to fight Dean's friends on a dock. Honestly, not inaccurate. But I wasn't thinking about gossip. I was thinking about the storm coming. Grace had gone silent for 2 full days. And with her, silence was never a good sign. Sure enough, at 8:12 a.m. Tuesday, the first text hit. Grace. We need to talk. I ignored it. At 9:03. Grace. Fine. If you won't talk to me, talk to my lawyer. Still ignored. By noon. Grace. You can't just abandon me like this. I gave you 7 years. I deserve something. I was in a meeting when that one came through, and I actually laughed out loud. My assistant poked her head in, thinking I was joking. At 3 p.m., Janet, my attorney, called. She's threatening to take the house, spousal support, and half your retirement. Let her threaten, I said. She also claims emotional distress from you abandoning the relationship. I sighed. Did she mention humiliating me in front of friends, bringing her mother to micromanage my entire existence, or eating brunch while I paid for her yoga membership? She did not. Shocking. Janet snorted. Don't worry. You're in excellent legal shape. No kids, no abuse allegations, no financial dependency. She's entitled to half of the marital assets and nothing more. So what's her angle? She thinks you'll cave because you're nice. She paused. You're not going to cave, right? Nope. Good. I like clients who don't cry. That night, Grace finally pushed past pleading and went straight to rage. Grace. You ruined my life. Grace. My mother says you're cruel and soulless. Grace. I hope you're happy. I didn't reply. And that drove her absolutely insane. By Thursday, the text had shifted again. Now she was on the PR campaign stage of the meltdown. Cryptic Instagram stories. Some men pretend to be supportive until they show their true colors. Never give your heart to someone who stops trying. Monica reshared everything with commentary like, "Men are trash." I wanted to comment back. Men also aren't the ones who face planted on a dock in stilettos. But personal growth. Soon mutual acquaintances started reaching out. "Hey man, I heard you blindsided Grace?" Blocked. "She seems really hurt." Ignored. "Can you two work it out?" Laughed. People love messy drama until it interrupts their lawn irrigation schedules. Then suddenly they're peace mediators. Meanwhile, I was living peacefully in my new apartment, making dinner while listening to sports radio instead of Caroline's voice poisoning the air like a carbon monoxide leak. Then week 4 arrived. And that's when the real madness began. It started innocently, a voicemail from Grace's mother. "Dean, this is Caroline. I expect you to apologize to Grace and reconsider this divorce. Your behavior has been unacceptable. Delete." Then another. "Grace tells me you've been emotionally neglectful for years. I'm disappointed but not surprised. Delete." Then, "You should be ashamed of what you've done." Delete. Then, "I kid you not. I hope you know that I will never forgive you for destroying my daughter's sense of security." I saved that one. Going to frame it someday. But the moment everything truly blew up wasn't Caroline's theatrics. It wasn't the social media posts. It wasn't Grace's whiplash of pretending to love me one minute and hate me the next. It was the day Grace crossed a line even I didn't expect her to cross. It was a Friday morning. I got to work early, coffee in hand, ready for a normal day. And my HR director was in my office. Face pale. Looking at me like I'd brought a live snake to work. "Dean," she said carefully, "your wife just emailed the company." I stared at her. "What?" "She sent a long message accusing you of abandonment, financial manipulation, and creating an unsafe emotional environment." I almost choked on my coffee. "What does that even mean?" "She said you left her without warning and that she's struggling to survive. She's living with Monica in a luxury condo." My HR director lowered her voice. "We're not taking it seriously. I just wanted to warn you before the CEO sees it." She also CC'd him. I rubbed my face. "You have got to be kidding me." "She included screenshots of your alleged mistreatment." "Screenshots of what?" "Oh, don't worry. They're just texts of you saying we need space and please talk to my lawyer. Nothing harmful." I slumped into my chair. Of all the stunts she pulled, this was Olympic-level desperation. But then my HR director said something that made my stomach drop. "She also wrote that she fears you're planning to hide assets." I groaned. "And that the company should withhold your bonus until her legal team reviews everything." "Oh, come on. She doesn't have a legal team," my HR added casually. We checked. Of course she didn't. Grace was doing what she always did. Trying to control me through chaos. Trying to embarrass me into compliance. Trying to turn my world upside down until I said, "Fine, you win." But for the first time in 7 years, I wasn't bending. I wasn't negotiating. I wasn't apologizing. I was done. I called Janet immediately. She listened. Let out a long, slow, professional sigh. "All right," she said. "Time to escalate." "Meaning?" "We're filing a restraining order for harassment." I blinked. "Wait, seriously?" "Yes. And we're sending a cease and desist to her and her mother. This stops now." Something heavy lifted inside me. Something 7 years old. Something that felt like my spine straightening. "Do it," I said. And she did. By Monday morning, Grace received formal notice. Stop contacting Dean. Stop contacting his employer. Stop contacting his friends. All communication goes through attorneys. What did Grace do? Exactly what you'd expect. She lost her mind. Again. The restraining order wasn't even fully processed before Grace detonated like a malfunctioning firework display. Monday afternoon, I was in my apartment putting together an IKEA shelf, the kind that looks deceptively simple but requires the patience of a monk, when my phone buzzed with a call from Janet. She sounded amused. "Dean, your wife is currently melting down in my office lobby." I paused mid-Allen wrench. "In your lobby?" "Oh, yes. She showed up without an appointment, demanded to see me, and is now loudly accusing you of emotional terrorism." "Is that a real thing?" "No. But she's saying it very passionately." I pinched the bridge of my nose. "Is security involved?" "Not yet. But she's crying, then yelling, then crying again. Think raccoon caught in a thunderstorm." I winced. "Do I need to come down there?" "Absolutely not." Janet snapped. "She wants attention. Do not give it to her." I set down the wrench and tried to process the absurdity of my life. Then Janet added. She also handed my receptionist a handwritten note demanding we withdraw the divorce filing and give her a path to reconciliation. I groaned. And a second note itemizing what she considers fair compensation if we don't reconcile. I closed my eyes. Here we go. "How much?" Janet rustled paper dramatically. "Grace believes she deserves at least $200,000 for her emotional suffering, plus the house, plus your cabin." "The cabin is non-marital." "I know." "She does not. There is a difference. This is insane. This," Janet said, "is leverage. Every meltdown she has strengthens our case." 20 minutes later she called again. "Update. She stole a muffin from our break room and says it's payment for the trauma you caused. Security is escorting her outside." I rubbed my temples. "Should I be worried?" "No," Janet said dryly. "I'm worried for whoever's car she hits in the parking lot." That turned out to be prophetic. Because at 6 p.m., Carter texted me. "Carter. Dude. Grace showed up at Monica's and backed into her garage door. Destroyed it." Before I could type a response. "Carter. Monica is screaming like she's being chased by bees." Then. "Carter. Owen says this is the best day of his life." I called him immediately. He answered breathless, like he'd been filming a wildlife documentary. "Bro," he said, "you missed history." Owen grabbed the phone. "She tried to peel out of the driveway and forgot the garage door was closed. Full send. Zero hesitation." Carter started laughing in the background. "Grace is yelling that Monica manifested the collision through negative energy." I sat down on my half-assembled shelf and dropped my head into my hands. "Why?" I muttered to the universe. "Is my divorce a sitcom?" But it wasn't over. Not even close. Because the next day, Grace escalated. She escalated hard. At 7:41 a.m. I stepped out of my apartment to go to work, and nearly tripped over a folding chair. With Grace in it. Sitting outside my door. Wearing pajamas and sunglasses. Holding a Starbucks cup. Leg bouncing like she'd had 12 shots of espresso. She jumped up when she saw me. "Dean!" "Grace," I said, voice flat. "You cannot be here. That restraining order isn't real," she snapped. "You're just trying to scare me. It literally came from a judge. I don't care." The hallway door opened and my elderly neighbor, Mrs. Holloway, peeked out, took one look at Grace, whispered, "Oh heavens," and immediately closed her door. "Grace," I said slowly, "leave. Now. Or I call security." "You can't do this to me," she shouted. "I'm fighting for our marriage. You fought for the right to insult me at poker night. That was different." "How?" She flailed her arms like a malfunctioning marionette. "Because I was right." I blinked. "You called me an embarrassment." "You are an embarrassment." So why are you fighting so hard to stay married to an embarrassment? She froze, eyes narrowing. I could practically see her internal Windows XP error message pop up. That's not the point. I sighed. Grace. Go home. No, she screamed. I am not giving up on us. I don't care what some lawyer says. Grace. She suddenly stomped her foot like a toddler whose iPad died. I want my husband back. You treated your husband like a roommate you hated. Carter texted me right then. Carter. Owen says if she cries on your doormat he wants video. Grace got closer, jabbing a finger into my chest. You're making a huge mistake. She hissed. Nobody will ever love you like I did. That, I said, is exactly what I'm hoping. She reeled back like I slapped her with a salmon. You're not even sorry? For leaving a situation where I was disrespected daily? No. Her mouth fell open. Then closed. Then opened again. She stared at me for a long moment. Then she dropped the Starbucks cup on the floor, dramatically, like it was a mic drop, spun around, and stormed down the hallway. She tripped halfway down, regained balance, then slammed into the stairwell door because she pulled instead of pushed. The door wobbled. She screamed. Stormed inside. Silence returned. I went to work like nothing happened. By the next day, her lawyer, yes, she finally hired one, called Janet. Apparently Grace's attorney took one look at her demands, listened to her version of events, and recommended accepting the standard settlement, apologizing for showing up at my home, starting therapy, and reflecting on behavioral patterns. Grace reportedly walked out mid-meeting. The meltdown was nearly complete. The marriage was long over. And all that was left was the last round.